everybody. Thank you so much for coming out today. We are Autistic Inclusive Meet, so we're an autistic organisation. There's 6 of us on the board and we're all autistic parents with autistic children. We've come out into your lovely estate today because we know there's a large population of Somalian and African families, Jamaican families here, Caribbean families, and we wanted to do a very quick talk for you and then watch this film, which I actually consulted on, about removing the stigma of the word autism in the Black community. There's so much misinformation put out, you know, that autism is caused by vaccines or by bad parenting, or that it's a curse, you know, or your child needs to be exercised, you know, that they're ill and they need to be healed, you know, so they're sent back to Africa and given all these horrible treatments that are actually scientifically unproven. Autism cannot be beaten out of you. You know, it's not something that we choose. It's something that we are. We are autistic. So we're wholly autistic, not something we can get rid of. So, yeah, lovely to see you all. And I'm going to hand over to William now. Just keep it recording and I'll come over. Shh, shh. Okay. Oh, the phone dropped. Oh dear. Oh, typical. Right, well, that was a special effect there. That was wonderful. Right. Hiya.
Thank you all for coming, everyone. My name is William. I'm one of the directors of Autistic Inclusive Meets, and I'm autistic. I'm originally from Ghana, Africa, and I grew up without knowing that I was autistic, but I had all the traits, I had all the behaviors of an autistic person. So I'm going to talk a bit about the stigma. I'm going to move over to Africa and see what's happening over there and bring it over here in the UK and narrow in on what's going on in families and how best we can help Black autistic people.
William, I'm just going to put the light on.
Okay.
Jackie, can you please hold this still for me?
I'll go and put the light on. Which one?
The one that's just overhead there. Thank you. I know we had to put it off because someone complained it was a bit bright, but... Sorry.
Oh, one.
That's it. Can see you. Right, let's go.
So, I was doing some research over the weekend, and I read about some statistics in some African countries. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but in Ethiopia, for example, there are roughly 100 million inhabitants counted during the census in 2017. Now, for these 100 million inhabitants, there were only 60 psychiatrists. And out of these 60 psychiatrists, only one of them specialized in child psychiatry. That's in 2017. Now, mind you, when a child is autistic, they are more prone to have mental illnesses when their needs are not met. So imagine them being in a country with so many people and just one psychiatrist to work with children. That's serious. There were only 2 public clinics as well in Ethiopia to provide child mental health services. And both of these were located in Addis Ababa, that's the capital of Ethiopia, where just a small fraction of the population lives. In 2015, there were about 50 child and adolescent psychiatrists for the 1 billion inhabitants of sub-Saharan Africa. So that shows the importance we place in Africa, the importance of childhood mental health. We need to do a lot more than that. So most Africans were unaware of autism despite its prevalence. And in surveys conducted in Nigeria, Tanzania, and Ethiopia, Healthcare workers and families frequently attributed autism and its features to a curse. The few schools present in Africa have limited insights into autism acceptance and would often fall back on controversial treatments and interventions such as applied behavioral analysis or ABA. And in families, whenever there was an autistic child, there were lots of different outlooks on the situation. Most families refused to acknowledge that their child was autistic, and they lived in denial. And some of them even felt that the difficulties experienced by the child should not be spoken of outside the house, but it should be kept inside the house. And in some of the families, we realized that the children were actually tied up at home so that they wouldn't get lost, wander, and that sort of thing. So their liberty was restrained, sometimes for hours at a time. So that's what's happened in Africa. Now, some of these families come to the UK to have a new life. They come as economic migrants, start life all over again, and they have the autistic children, but the mindset doesn't change. It's still the same. We've got people coming to church with autistic children, and they're being called forward to pray over them so that the spirit of autism depart from them. We've got people who tend to be triggered by loud noises, and they end up suffering from what we call sensory overload. But they get lots of dirty looks from people. And these are all things that perpetuate the stigma that we're trying to challenge. Most people in Black and minority communities rely on their religion as a source of support. We've got churches, we've got mosques, we've got different places of worship, and most of these places could be our allies if they're able to open themselves to further education. I've had lots of interaction with many African autistic organizations, and many of them are not listening. They are not listening to the fact that we do not endorse the puzzle piece. They do not open themselves to the fact that we prefer to be referred to as autistic people, not persons with autism. Once you get into that mind frame that we know what is best and we are going to give it, you are actually perpetuating an image that autistic people do not matter. Many of the Black-led autistic organizations, for example, do not have any autistic person on their board. I've spoken to many organizations, especially in my home country, and it's almost like whatever I say falls on deaf ears. I was reading a research made in Ghana recently about autism and its impact and the stigma, and I realized that the autistic person was out of the research. It was all about the mother. It was all about community, how the community see the autistic person, but there was nothing about the autistic person. So I just want to put it out there that we are people, we have feelings, we are individuals, we've got a voice, we've got preferences. We prefer to be called autistic people. We want to work with you to make life more bearable for autistic people. We are not disabled by our condition, we are disabled by society. And if you would listen to us, if you work with us, if churches could come together and work with us, if mosques could come together and work with us, if community leaders could come together and work with us, we are prepared to eradicate the stigma and work together as one community. Thank you for listening to me. Now, we'll be watching The Reason I Jumped. All right.
Thank you, William.
Any
Can we ask you questions?
Yes.
Sure.
You said you are not people with autistic, but you are autistic people.
Yes.
What is the difference?
The difference is that if you say that we are people with autism,
Yes.
it implies that we can be people without autism, but it is part of our identity. We believe that it's part of who we are. It's a bit like I'm a Ghanaian. I wouldn't say I'm a person with Ghanaianness. I wouldn't say I'm a person with gayness. I would not say I'm a person with Englishness, or I'm a person with melanin. I'll say I'm a black person.
Yes.
So that's the way we refer to ourselves. We prefer to call ourselves autistic people because it's part of us. If you say that the person is a person with autism, it kind of implies that autism can be removed with that, and that's very dangerous because we've got people peddling cures, trying to remove the autism from people. Parents are quite desperate because they want to, they are very well-meaning, they want to do their best for their children. When they see their children screaming and suffering and throwing themselves on the floor, they say, I wish I could do something for my child. That's when unscrupulous people come and sell things like bleach to the people, camel milk, and all sorts of cures, chelation, and all sorts of dangerous cures, trying to remove autism from the person. But once you're autistic, you are always autistic. It's part of who you are.
Okay.
So the best
So
cure
you
for
are born,
autism
you are
is
born,
acceptance.
you are born with it.
We are born with it. It's
Okay.
part of us. It's in vitro. It's that's how we were born. Autism happens at conception. Yeah.
So here is how to manage and control it.
How to manage the environment, because sometimes we are triggered by the environment, loud noises, loud bright lights. These are kind of the things that trigger us as autistic people. We've got two categories of autistic people. We have sensory seekers, and we've got sensory I can't remember the word. People
Avoiders.
Avoiders, yes, that's it. Yes. I happen to be a sensory seeker, so I like to spray lots of perfume on myself. I like bright light, I like to listen to loud music. But on the other side, we've got avoiders, and they get triggered from it, and it affects them greatly. So the problem is not about curing autism, it's about controlling the environment.
So that is environment.
Yeah, that's the
It's how things are around us. See, I'm a sensory avoider. Like, I like feeling things, so I'm a tactile seeker. I like to feel certain textures, but strong perfume, smells of restaurants, things like that can trigger me into a sensory overload that can last 2 days. I'm just getting over one. I've had it for 2 days. So I was vomiting, headache, couldn't be touched, no sound, can't have any lights, couldn't have the TV on. So for some of us it can be really hard, but that's caused by sensory issues. That's not autism. People that are not autistic can have sensory issues as well, such as dyspraxic or ADHD or other conditions.
I thought autistic is the same thing for everybody, so it is different with an individual.
It's different for every individual, yeah.
Now, there are these people, I did work because I used to work as a carer many years ago, so I used to meet a lot of people. This person, they used to say he's autistic because his memory is very good. Is it autism can cause that?
Yes.
Not autism can cause that. Is that being autistic?
Yes, it's one of the traits of autism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some autistic people can have very good long-term memory. For example, I have a good long-term memory, or what we call autobiographical memory.
Yes.
So I know lots of things. I can remember things that I've been through since I was a little child.
Yes.
But I've not got a photographic or eidetic memory.
Yeah.
But some people have got it. However, I've got a very poor short-term memory. So if you give me like a string of numbers to memorize, like a phone number, I won't be able to do it immediately. So we've got, that's why we say autism is a spectrum. Just look at Emma and myself, we are so different with regards to our presentation. Yes, so the person who has a very good memory for things, it could be that he's autistic. So that tells us that autism is not just one thing, it's not just one presentation. There's a popular saying that if you've met one autistic person, you've only met one autistic person.
Yes.
And that's one of the problems I have with my Ghanaian community, because the image of autism they are projecting is always a child having a meltdown, screaming, being on the floor crying, not able to do anything for themselves, needing high levels of care. That's the only image of autism that I see in Ghana. We've not got people like Emma in Ghana. We've not got people like me in Ghana. We've not got people like, I don't know, who are all the top autistic people?
Yeah, there's so many. Yeah.
And they don't
There's
show
no
that.
sort of example, is there, over there?
There's no role model example. This morning, Emma posted something on Facebook about a little boy who, what did he do?
He's written a book about space.
He's written a book about space, yes. We don't see that in Ghana. We don't see
I
that.
think you don't see it because people have not accepted.
First of all, because they've not accepted, and secondly, because of the level of diagnostic development.
Do you know in Africa, especially where I come from in Tanzania, autistic is just, they call it a very bad name. That one is mad.
Yes.
Yeah. And now, if that is the thing, if it's my child, you hide the child in the house.
You hide because
when he goes out, people will be staring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just not enough understanding at all, is there?
Yeah, exactly. And even now, I don't have much that I know about autism, because to me, I thought autistic is something can be cured. And we have that girl who came here last week. And the Ronke daughter. The mother said to us she's autistic, but to me, I thought, no, she's very naughty, she will do that. So to me, because I'm stupid, my diagnosis is that she has. Let him come and sit.
Hello, Miss Barnfiele.
Hi, I'm
How are you?
We are in a class. Do you want to
come in a
sit?
bit quiet?
Can I come in quietly?
Because there's a class going on. Yeah, just sit down.
Would you like to sit down quietly? Go and make a cup of coffee,
Okay.
then come and sit with us quietly.
Yeah. What I was going to ask, like, sometimes when you're out shopping, you see, especially children, and they're sort of shouting and screaming, and they don't want to be with their parents and go away and that. Is that all? Is that autism?
Yeah, there's a reason why they're doing that. It's probably because they're being overwhelmed by the sensory stimulation around them. There's so many things happening. There are bright lights, there are people walking around, there are sounds everywhere. So it all triggers them. Some people feel the sounds.
I feel sounds.
Okay, there's something called synesthesia. It's probably what they might be feeling. Some people feel it prickling around them. Some people even see. I believe that
I see colours with loud
sees
sounds.
colours with sounds. Blue flashing lights, if I remember well.
Yeah, blue ripples of light across my vision if it's a loud sound.
Yeah.
Then that is a special thing.
Yeah. It's
Because
just
they
a
are
different
dealing-
wiring in the brain, yeah.
To me, that I wouldn't say is a bad thing.
No, I think it's beautiful. But if you're in a sensory overload and you'd want to see black and you're closing your eyes and you can still see colour because you can hear noises around the house, that hurts.
That can be scary.
And you can't turn it off.
So this thing is so large, because to me, now I was talking about the girl, that Ronke girl. The mother told her she's autistic, but I said, because what we think autistic is just something very minor, So to us, we thought, no, this child has a learning disability, she has other issues.
You can have adults and children and teens that are autistic and have learning difficulties, or are Down syndrome, or are cerebral palsy. You've got people that are autistic that have mental health issues. So you can have, a diagnosis of autism plus something,
Now, if this autism is not taken care of, can it go higher and higher?
No.
If it's not taken care of, It depends on what you mean by not taken care of.
I mean,
I know that
like,
if their needs are not met,
that is what
it could result in mental illness. I've fallen into depression and anxiety due to my needs not being met. Remember, there was a time in my life I did not even know that I was autistic. And I used to be suicidal way back in school. I used to wish I wasn't alive. I used to wish that I would go to bed and not wake up the next morning. There was a time I was doing a teacher training and it was really horrible. I would be on the bus and I would wish that the bus would have an accident and just kill me off because my needs were not being met. Right now it's a different story because I've now gotten my diagnosis and I'm in receipt of disabled student allowance and they give me lots of different technologies, support. Yes, so I'm okay. Okay, but there are so many people out there who have not got the support, and it's very likely they're at risk of delving into mental illness because their needs are not met.
So what about it? Sorry, go on,
Yeah,
Jackie.
I was saying, you're saying you're born with it, but
Yes.
how does the doctors know that you are autistic?
Oh, there are different tests or different diagnosis tests. There's one called ADOS. I can't remember the full.
Autistic detection or autism detection observation,
Yes.
something like that. Yeah.
Yes. So it's a series of tests to determine how you think. Because someone who is neurotypical is the word we use, not normal. So someone who is neurotypical,
It's not autistic.
yeah, who is not autistic, would behave in a certain way, a certain normal or expected way. But someone who is autistic would think differently, and that's how they manage to find out if the person is autistic. So I went through that test, and
So did I. Yeah.
Now, because autistic, you are born with.
yes,
If you didn't know and nobody knew, can it develop or I want to use the wrong one? Can it blow up when you are an adult? Like.
It all depends on the individual, really. For example, I was born autistic, but I did not know I was autistic. I did not know that there was anything different about me until my first day at school. That's when everybody got to know, because at home I'm in my comfort zone. I can do whatever I want, and I knew everybody at home, my sister, my mom, my dad. But when I went outside, social anxiety set in. It looked like everybody in the class knew each other for ages. I did not believe that this was the first time they were meeting each other, because they were all bonded in ways that I wasn't bonded. Yes, and it didn't just last for that day. It lasted for the whole 3 years, or 3 or 4 years I was in primary school. I was all alone in the playground, walking around, picking things on the floor while people were playing. I was underachieving in class because I didn't know why I was even there. And my parents did not even understand what was wrong. It was all my fault. They kept blaming me. The teachers were blaming me. Everyone was pointing fingers at me. The kids were laughing at me. So as I grew up, I began to put in strategies, learning the behaviors of others, mimicking them. I didn't get it at once, but I managed to pick it up bit by bit. And as I moved from one higher school to the other, like from primary school, it was really horrible. It was in Ghana. Then I traveled to France. By then I had got a little group of friends.
Yeah.
In Ghana, I had no friends, but now I have a little group of friends. I managed to learn or pick up some social skills from them. When we came back from Ghana, I used those skills to get myself another group of friends, and by the time I climbed to university, I was behaving more or less neurotypical, but it was still very awkward, but I could survive with the skills that I've gotten. Even up to today, I can function in a work environment socially, but everybody knows that I'm the quiet one, because naturally I would revert to myself. I get tired when I interact socially.
Yeah, we're going to be tired after this.
Yes.
You are definitely, because you've done a lot more than me.
And I found out why I'm always tired at parties and social events, because in my brain, or in the human brain, there's a part of the brain that is used to do intellectual work, like working maths, doing algebra and that kind of thing. And there's another part of the brain that's used for social interaction, relaxation. Now, that part of the brain that is used for relaxation and social interaction, mine doesn't really work. So I rely on my mathematical part to socialize. That's why I get so tired. Imagine you working maths for your whole life, doing complex equations, like writing an exam for your whole life. You get tired, you get fed up. That's how I feel.
It's a brilliant explanation,
Yeah.
William, really.
People we call genius, they must be autistic somehow.
Some of them
Because
are.
they excel so much in that area.
Yeah.
isn't it?
I think you're speaking about savants. So a savant is highly gifted in an area. So we've got Stephen,
Wilshire?
he flew over London in a helicopter just once and then was able to draw it from memory. You know, so we've got people that are highly skilled and highly gifted that are autistic, but not all of us are.
And there are some examples of people...
We should wind up in about 2 minutes.
Okay. It's believed that people like Einstein, Beethoven were all autistic. I don't know how true it is, but if you look at their biographies, it points out to that. Yes, you had a question?
Yeah, the question is, when you realized you were different when you went to school,
Yeah.
what did your parents do?
Oh, my parents, well, they kept telling me that you should make friends, snap out from this behavior. And at school, they were giving me names. They were calling me all sorts of bad names.
Yeah.
My parents heard of it, but they did not defend me. They actually called me those names, hoping that it would make me snap out of it. It did the direct opposite. So, it doesn't work. Acceptance is what works. So the message we are bringing today is the message of acceptance. Kill the stigma. Autism acceptance. We are talking about awareness. Awareness is not enough. We need acceptance at this point in time.
Thank you.
At least I have learned the two things.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's what we wanted.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to put that on now. Thank you so much, William.